Prime Minister Modi is all set for his 6th official visit to the United States. On 20th June, when the Indian Prime Minister reaches the Andrews Air Force Base, some Indian Americans will be present to welcome him. But just a few kilometers from the Andrews Air Force Base in Washington, some other Indian Americans along with US lawmakers, journalists and citizens would be screening the BBC documentary film on Narendra Modi and Gujarat riots.
He is the leader of the world's biggest democracy.
As many of you would be aware, the documentary titled India, the Modi Question was banned from viewing online in India. Twitter and YouTube links sharing the video were taken down. Universities and citizen groups screening the documentary were attacked and sometimes booked. The documentary is a two-part series that examines Narendra Modi's leadership during the 2002 riots in Gujarat, India. Over 1,000 people, mostly Muslims, were killed in these riots, and activists claim the actual toll to be even higher. Modi has consistently denied accusations that he failed to take appropriate action to stop the violence. Additionally, a Supreme Court ordered investigation found no evidence to support prosecuting him. Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International will be screening this BBC documentary in Washington on 20th June. Human Rights Watch in a statement urged Prime Minister Modi and US President Joe Biden and congressional leaders should include meaningful discussions of human rights issues in India and USA. The World Report, a detailed report of 2022 by Human Rights Watch, found that the Bharatiya Janata Party-led government in India continued discrimination against minorities, particularly Muslims. The supporters committed violent attacks reflecting the government's Hindu majoritarian ideology. Institutions including the justice system and the National Human Rights Commission showed bias. Civil society activists and journalists were silenced through politically motivated charges, while rights groups and opponents faced harassment through funding regulations and financial allegations, the report of the Human Rights Watch had stated. In a June 8 letter, Human Rights Watch urged President Biden and congressional leaders to raise concerns about India's rights situation with Prime Minister Narendra Modi directly. As per PM Modi's official USA schedule, he will be addressing a joint session of US Congress members on 22nd June. He had done a similar one in 2016, but this time, with the pressure mounting from human rights groups, it will be interesting to see how PM Modi's Congress address unfolds. Not just that, the international organization, Committee for Protection of Journalists, had also urged the Biden administration to press the Indian Prime Minister on media crackdown and arbitrary arrest of journalists. India's press freedom rank has been on a steady downfall since 2014. Also, India remains world's internet shutdown capital as it tops the list of countries for arbitrarily suspending internet. As I speak, internet in Manipur remains suspended for more than 40 days due to the ongoing confrontation between the Kuki and Meitei communities in the northeastern state of India. To understand more about CPJ's call to act for media freedom, we speak with Ms. Lee Yi Bei, Head of Committee for Protection of Journalists in Asia. Among other things, we also understand how the international journalist community looks at the state of democracy in India. Listen in to what she had to say.
Well, India is the world's largest democracy, and it has a vibrant media landscape by comparison to a lot of countries in Asia. But our concern at CPJ is that the space for independent and critical journalism has been shrinking in recent years, especially since Prime Minister Modi came into power in 2014. We have documented an increasing number of cases on Indian media and journalists who are critical of the government or the BJP party have been jailed, harassed, and surveilled in retaliations for their work. So this is why we at CPJ call for this issue related to press freedom violations and media safety to be raised during PM Modi's visit to the US next week, especially during his meeting with President Biden. Of course, our call is not just directed at the US government only, but any governments or civil society groups that care about democracy and press freedom should have the chance to engage constructively with the Indian government on these issues. Partly it's to do with what we have been seeing from India in recent months, especially with the raids on the BBC office earlier this year at their Delhi and Mumbai offices. But also we see there have been no major improvement in the press freedom conditions in India. We are still seeing a number of journalists, 6 journalists who are arbitrarily detained in retaliations for their work, and 4 of them are in Kashmir. And all of them have been targeted under the draconian security laws, the HUPA and PSA, which we have called for repeal or amendment. So one of them, Fahad Shah, is facing an ongoing trial related to terrorism charges. We have called for him those charges to be dropped and that he should be released. And the other 5 journalists are also remain in pretrial detention. Apart from that, as I also mentioned, that we are seeing continuing harassment on the domestic and foreign media, including the routine raids and income tax investigations, for instance, that launch into critical news outlet. So those are some of the signs that we are very concerned, and which is why we are calling on that the 2 governments, 2 world largest democracies, to engage constructively on these issues. We certainly hope that they will acknowledge the concerns and the caused by civil society groups, by advocates, human rights, press freedom advocates, because these are some of the core values, for a country which is for any functioning democracy. So, why wouldn't they want to talk about this? Because this is some of the core elements of a functioning democracy. So we will urge President Biden to engage constructively with the Indian PM to convey the message from the world that is very clear that in relation to press freedom, that India must end its media crackdown and release the 6 journalists who are being arbitrarily detained in retaliations for their work. President Biden and PM Modi should also hold joint press conference, for instance, and take questions from the journalists, because we know a press conference by PM Modi has been very rare in recent years. And India, of course, as the host of G20 this year, a lot of scrutiny and spotlight is being put on India, but India, as the world's largest democracy, it really needs to live up to that by ensuring there's a free and independent media.
Well, that was Lee Yi-bei from the Committee for Protection of Journalists. Despite the mounting pressures on the Narendra Modi government from human rights group, it doesn't seem plausible that the demands of these right groups would be taken into consideration. As the USA has declared India as its consequential partner in Asia, it seems unlikely that the human rights concerns would be addressed. A similar seminar by human rights groups took place in Australia before the Indian PM visited the continent recently. But despite that, the PM visit was a quote-unquote success, as the Australian PM even called Narendra Modi the boss amid a crowd of thousands of NRIs. That's it from me in this report. This is me, Zishan Kaskar, signing off for The Wire.
The Wire के और वीडियोस देखने के लिए सब्सक्राइब करें और बेल आइकन पर क्लिक करें। स्वतंत्र पत्रकारिता की आर्थिक मदद करने के लिए डिस्क्रिप्शन में दिए गए लिंक पर जाएं और अपनी राशि चुनें।